say, I'm just laughing away over here because I love my next guest, and it's Debbie Childers. And I'm telling you, if you want to laugh, you got to hear Debbie. I get tickled just thinking about it.
We won't tell anybody what I said.
Yeah, no, we're not going to go
keep
there.
Keep that a secret.
No, we'll keep that a secret. But anyway, Debbie, tell me how in the world you got to be this comedian that you are at different functions.
Well, it kind of just all happened. It's not what I planned for my life, but it just kind of all happened. About 35 years ago, I went to an event at the University of Tennessee, and there was a speaker there.
Oh my gosh, University of Tennessee.
Yeah, I know. I don't darken those doors often, but I was there that day, and there was a speaker by the name of Jeannie Robertson.
I love her.
I do too.
I love her.
She became just my. She just was what I wanted to be, but I also knew that God had called me to teach Bible studies and to study the Word and present deep truths. You know, I knew that's what God had called me to do. But at the same time, I felt drawn to this comedy. And Jeannie would always say that she wasn't a comedian, she was a humorist. And I am too, because I don't tell jokes, I tell stories. And they're things that actually happen and would only happen to me, you know. So I gain all of my material from my family and people like that. But so for 30 years, I kind of modeled things after her style. And about 3 years ago, my Sunday school class said, we're at Grace Point in Marietta, and I teach a Sunday school class of ladies.
I teach Sunday school.
Do you? It's wonderful.
It is. I love it.
And so one of the ladies in my class, in fact, several ladies in my class said, Debbie, I'm on Jeannie's mailing list, which I was too, and they said, she's doing this national contest for a new comedian, and she wants somebody, you know, that she can mentor and all that. So they said, you need to enter that contest. And they talked me into it. So I just put it on Facebook and said, anybody wants to come hear me do a show, I need a recording and I need an audience. And so I just put together this thing, and that got to the church that night, and it was packed. I mean, packed. I couldn't believe it. And so I had the best time of my life, and I put on about an hour-and-a-half show of just one story after another. So sent the video in, and Jeannie told me later, she said, that it was you from the beginning. From the day we saw it, we knew you were the winner. Yeah. And so she said you were exactly what we wanted. Which, you can't imagine. I was so humbled and so honored by that. Mm-hmm. So then she kind of took me under her wing for a while and let me do some shows with her. Really? That was one of the prizes, was to get to do a show with her. And then
was that hilarious?
It was.
Was it wonderful?
It was the night of my life.
Yeah, it had to be. So, yes.
And so then that continued on for a couple of years. I went over and spent a weekend with her and took my daughter over to meet her and everything.
Oh,
and just
lovely.
Had a great time. And then, I don't know if you know this or not, but last summer she passed away.
Yes,
very unexpectedly. And
I was
just rocked my world.
Yeah.
Broke
my heart.
It did mine too. I mean, we had gotten so close. I would hear something, pick up the phone and say, what do you think this would do? You know, you think this is good enough for a show? And so we had gotten very close, and it really, I'm not over it. Yeah, but that kind of, because I was going in that direction, and then I've had to start looking at it and say, well, apparently that's not the direction I was supposed to go, and my first love will always be the Bible study. So what God did was He just kind of combined those two, which I'd been doing for years, because Jeannie's style was always my style in teaching, where I would always just make it funny. You know, there's so many things in Scripture. And right now, people need humor as much as they need Bible study, just about.
Yes, absolutely.
And they need the Bible more than they ever have, and they need humor more than they ever have. So it just made sense because of how God wired me, that's my style. And so I love doing that. I love teaching a Bible study, but making it so much fun that people are laughing one minute, and the next minute they're, you know, with the truth that just hits them.
Have that all moment. I get that. Yeah.
I love to just tell this, like, you want me to give you an example?
I certainly do.
I love this, and I have this, I just love this. When Jesus told Lazarus to come forth.
Yes.
When Lazarus was in the grave and he said, come forth. We picture this, and I've pictured it for years, with him, you know, just walking maybe with his arms out of the grave or
Yeah.
floating out. And it hit me one day that he was bound from head to toe. He came out of that grave hopping.
Hopping.
He came out of that tomb hopping. Well, that cracked me up when I started thinking about that. But I know that he was hopping because the very next words that Jesus said was, let him loose. You know, unbind him. Well, that moves so easily into talking about how we once were dead and now we're alive, so we don't need to be wearing grave clothes.
That's right.
We need to be set free, loosed from everything that bound us up.
Amen.
And that Christians should be the happiest people on earth. And we should not look as if we're dead. We should look as if we've been made alive, and gloom and doom needs to stay in the tomb. And, you know, so it's so easy to move into things like that, but they'll remember that. And so I just think God has called me to that unique way of presenting the gospel.
Well, do you think
Bible truths.
Do you think since Jeannie has gone on to be with the Lord that you're going to step into this more, maybe to fill her shoes
I don't
in
see that
some
happening.
way?
I don't see that happening.
Really?
Because I feel like God put me with her for a reason. For one thing,
For a season?
It was a gift for me
Yeah.
because I had loved her for so long.
Yes,
And I
absolutely.
think that was just God's gift to me to
Well-
let me get to know her like that. But I think it was to learn from her, but I think it's to use in this direction.
And okay, you've got something on here that said you got some wisdom from Andy of Mayberry.
Yeah.
Now, I love that show.
Yeah.
And
I do too, and it's a wise show.
Yeah, it is really,
Yeah.
and a good family show.
Yeah.
Which we need
Sure it is. Yeah.
more of. You know, all the old programs like that. Fathers taught their children, mothers were
Exactly.
good mothers,
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
people. We need some more.
Yeah, I don't really follow in that pattern. The mothers that wear their pearls while they clean the house
I
in their
don't do
dress.
that.
That's not me, no.
No, I'm usually in something sloppy and comfortable.
Right, exactly.
And this hair up in a ponytail.
you actually clean the house, you're saying?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
no, I don't.
I do try. I still do try to do that, Debbie.
I got my floors cleaned one night, just shiny, you know, and I forgot about it. And I walked in there with my socks on, and both feet went out from under me, and I landed on the ground, knocked me out. And when I came to, my husband was standing over me. He said, "You ain't used to clean floors, are you?"
No.
So, no, I'm not.
So I don't believe I'll do that
But yes,
again.
you're right. Andy and all those shows.
Yeah. So what is the things you gleaned from Andy of Mayberry?
Well, I mean, there's so much, but one of them is Ernest T. Bass. Ernest T. Bass was, if you'll remember, they dressed him up like they said he's going to be a Boston gentleman because he wanted to date Rowena, you know. So he would, but before that, he had been throwing rocks at the house and saying, "I'm going to marry you," you know. And so they dressed him up like a Boston gentleman, and they taught him how to hold out his pinky finger, and he would say, "How do you do, Mrs. Wiley?" And so he did that for just a little while, but then something made him mad. He jumped back outside and started throwing rocks at the window again. Well, that's a picture of us when we think that living the Christ life is about doing and changing us on the outside.
Gosh, I hadn't thought of it that way.
It's changing us on the inside, and then it shows on the outside. And if we're not changed on the inside, then we'll try our best to do all the right things. But before long, we're going to be throwing rocks at windows again because inside we're the same.
Yeah.
So it's a turn from sinner to saint. And then when we start acting like, living like who we are, then it shows on the outside. The other one I love from Andy Griffith is Otis Campbell.
Yeah,
Remember how Otis Campbell was?
Yeah.
Nobody ever put him in jail.
Yeah.
He would walk in, he would get the keys off the wall, he would open up the cell, you know, and he would step inside, close it back, hang the keys back up on the wall. Well,
He was never a prisoner.
He was never a prisoner, except in his own mind, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, that is a picture of us when God says we're free, but we're still act as if we're still bound up to all those things. It's kind of like a dog that's in an invisible fence. We're as free as we want to be, but as
Right.
long as we believe we're not free,
Right.
then we're going to be still bound to all of these things. And Otis
Absolutely.
Campbell was the same way. He walked himself right back into captivity.
Yes.
And we do the same thing.
And you know, it's the same as an elephant. They'll
Yeah,
tie that little rope
exactly.
around a
Yeah.
huge elephant.
And they'll stay right there.
They'll stay right there. They'll
Never move out of their comfort
And they
zone.
could have pulled that rope off,
That's right.
broke it in
Yep.
a million times.
Yeah.
And so could we. And I don't know if it's if we get down in the mully grubs and our faith gets slow or whatever. But you know what? The joy of the Lord
Yeah.
is our strength.
That's exactly right.
And I think that may be one reason God's called you to do this,
I
to give
know
us
it is.
joy. Because we have to have that. The Bible says there's a time to laugh and
Yeah.
there's a time to cry.
Yeah.
You know, and as a Christian, we need to laugh.
Right.
And we need to show the world that we're more than happy.
That's right.
We've got
And people-
more of the things to be happy for.
People who are saved have joy.
Absolutely.
They just don't realize it. It's the fruit of the Spirit. And so
Yeah.
the Spirit is producing joy, and we're the place where that fruit is supposed to pop out.
Absolutely.
Joy is supposed to come out of us because it's the life of Christ coming out of us.
Yeah.
And that's in joy. And so if I can show people that God has done this for you, therefore be joyful, show the joy that's in you.
Absolutely.
And I do believe that's my calling. And so
I think so too.
Because of that, I don't see me going in a all comedy direction.
Really?
Although I love it.
Yeah.
I do. I love it. And I've done several shows, just, in a theater, just a comedy show. And I do love it. And I'll still do more of those.
Yeah.
But I do think my unique calling is to combine that
Well,
with
it
Bible study.
Just sitting here talking to you, and you've been on the show before, you bring it out in such a easy way
Thank you.
to
Thank
get it layman.
Yeah.
Like you know, you get
Right.
the gist of it,
Exactly.
the meat maybe
Yeah.
is a better word of the word, and you can apply that better.
Right.
But I'm like you. You said people are better off when they're laughing.
Sure
And
they are.
I just have a smile on your face.
Merry heart doeth good like a medicine.
Medicine,
Yep.
absolutely. I've said that many times
I
when
have
I've
too.
been not feeling well. I said, Lord, you said a merry heart. And
That's
I have
right.
the joy of the Lord. And joy is one of the segments of the fruit of the Spirit.
Right.
Is joy.
Yep.
Joy unspeakable,
Unspeakable.
baby, and full of glory.
Right.
Isn't that awesomeness? That's just so wonderful.
Insurmountable.
Yeah.
Can't understand it, beyond understanding.
It's so good, but I want to talk to you about, because you had put down here some things that you said that might be interesting for us to talk about. Family. You put down family.
Yeah.
Why family?
Well, my family, I get all of my material from my family.
Is that
Yeah,
okay?
either from my mother, who is my mother's 93. I've moved her here recently. She lived in Alabama, and she's been as healthy as, she's made of steel. And a couple of years ago, she had a really decline. So I moved her over here. She lives at Delmar Gardens, and so she's close to me now, and she keeps me full of material. I went over there one day, and they were having this penny auction.
Yeah.
And so she and 3 of her friends were sitting at a table, and I sat down with them. And the place gives them 25 pennies. It's not even their money.
Yeah.
The place gives them 25 pennies. And if they don't spend their 25 pennies, they have to turn it back in.
Okay, well, wait a minute. We
Okay.
got to take a break.
Okay.
So I want to hear
That
the end
happens
of
to me a lot.
Yeah. We're going to take a short break, but stay with us because I know it's got to be funny. Baby's telling it. So stay with us and we'll come back with
Okay.
the 25 pennies. Is
Okay,
that right?
yeah.
Okay. We'll see you in just a minute. Okay, y'all, we've got to hear this story from Debbie about the 25 pennies and her mama that is 93 years old. So go away, take it away.
The place there gives them 25 pennies, the director. And so they have these 25 pennies at their table, and they will pull out these things like a $10 bottle of lotion, and they bid on them. And so my mother and her 3 friends are sitting there, and they would pull out this, they'd pull out detergent, they'd pull out all of these different things, and I'm sitting there thinking, spend your 25 cents.
Well,
And I finally turned around and I said, you know, y'all don't get to keep this. They're going to take this up at the end, spend it. So they got down to the end, and she had a box of Kleenex. And she held it up. She said, the box of Kleenex. And one of the ladies said, 5 cents. And another one said, 6 cents. Another one said, 7 cents. Another said, 8 cents. And then I looked back at them and I said, bid on it. And one of those women said, I'm not giving 9 cents for a box of Kleenex. It's not even your money. And you got to turn it back in. Why not?
And you can't get a box of Kleenex for 9 cents.
Exactly. Where are you going to get? And you all buy Kleenex.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway, things like that happen. My husband he is an never-ending well. He makes it so easy for my stuff. And
does he love it that you do it though?
Sometimes not so much. But I figure he talks about me in sermons. He uses me in sermon illustrations.
Oh.
So I figure I can pay him back this way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's quit doing that now. He is a pastor.
You taught him a good lesson.
I did. His name is Tim, by the way.
Yeah.
But he led a group to the Holy Land a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And when they were visiting the birthplace of Jesus, he bent over and his glasses came off and slid up under the place where guests couldn't go, Yeah. So a guide went up there and got his glasses for him, handed it back to him. He was walking around that afternoon, which I think is funny because a couple of 100 years from now, some archaeologist is going to dig and they're going to find those glasses and say, they use glasses in Jesus' day. But anyway, so he got back, they're walking around that afternoon.
Yeah.
And he kept saying, he said everything was blurry. And he couldn't figure out where everything's blurry. Finally, somebody came up and put their finger through this side and said, your lens is missing. So his lens is up. So that's why it's going to be funny a couple of 100 years from now. So anyway, he couldn't see for a couple of years, and he came home and he was trying to park at Marietta on the square, and he drives a big old truck, so he couldn't find a parking place. And somebody told him there's some bigger parking places over there, so he moved his truck. And the man came by and he said, "Thank you for telling me about that parking place. I can park here." And the man said, "Oh, you're welcome." And he said, "And by the way," Tim said, "and by the way, thank you for your service." And the man said, "I don't know what you're talking about." Now, Tim can't see because he said, "Your service." He said, "I got a grandson in the Marines, another grandson in the Air Force." He said, we love veterans and we love our military." And the man said, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about." And Tim said, "Your hat. Thank you for your service." And he said, "That's a heating and air company I work for." Tim was quick. He said, "Thank you for your service."
Anyway,
yeah, we all need heating and air.
Yeah, absolutely, which I need desperately right now.
Me too. So we always, Mr. Carrier is the love of my life.
Well, what about at church, y'all's church? Do you ever get to
Oh, yes, they let me do anything I want to. They're wonderful to me. They love my Sunday school class. They're very, very accepting of me. A lot of people expect preachers' wives to be a certain way.
Oh, yeah, very.
I've never been that model of a preacher's wife. And
I'm glad who you are.
I am too.
You make a difference. Yes.
I think they can identify with me because, I'm pretty transparent.
If I didn't teach Sunday school myself, I'd be coming to your class.
Well, we have fun.
Debbie.
We do have fun.
Yeah, and I think that's so very, very, very important.
Yeah.
Also, what's important is you're writing books.
Yeah.
Now listen, did you think you were born to write books? I've
always enjoyed writing.
Really?
I have, yeah. I've always enjoyed writing.
But writing a book, I mean, that's
some
detail.
It is, but I get into it and then I just forget what time it is, and I love to do that.
And you can get, because you got to make a beginning, a middle,
Yeah.
and an end, and you can get all that together. And
Yeah,
it makes
well,
sense.
I don't write creatively. I just write Bible studies. You know,
Oh,
so
okay. I thought you
write
had written a
creative Bible
book.
study.
Oh,
I've written
Deborah.
several books, but they're all Bible studies.
Oh, okay. I want
I am
one
working on one called My People, because I go back in time to all these people that have shaped my life, you know, and the funny stories about them. We had a woman in our church in Leeds, Alabama, where I was growing up, and I call her the woman that died twice, because they call, you know how they do in churches, and they call everybody and tell them to bring, you know, so-and-so's died, get on your prayer chain, call it, and get everybody to, so everybody fried chicken and had all this stuff ready. And then about 3 hours later, they called back, the prayer chain activated again and said, what, she's not dead. And so then she breathed again. So about 3 hours after, about 3 days after that, she actually died. So when the prayer chain went around, everybody was saying, are you sure? I don't want to fry that chicken again, so I'm sure. But,
yeah, I've said enough prayers for her.
Exactly,
I think
yeah.
She's covered.
Right.
She's good.
Exactly.
She's good.
So I just tell stories about people like that.
Yeah.
You know, that in my life. So that's the first thing I've written and I'm working on now.
Now, are you saying that's going to be a real book?
Yeah, it's just going to be a collection of stories.
Of stories in a book
people.
form.
Yeah, in a book form. Right.
So if you when you do that, how are you going to market it? Or can we get a copy of that?
Of course, yeah.
Will you come back?
You can have me back, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'd love to do that.
You got to come back and let
I'd
me
love to do that.
read some of those stories.
I would love
that. So where are you going from here, Miss Debbie? What have you got planned?
I have spent the last 2 years pretty much being a caregiver for my mother, and so I've really slowed down a lot. But
it takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I've done it.
But I'm with Stacy at the Robinson Agency. And,
okay.
She's beginning to get me some bookings, you know, especially around here, so I won't have to leave my mother for much. But she's done so well. I mean, she's thriving.
I cannot believe she's 93 and still going strong.
Goes circles around me.
Really?
Yeah. I took her to get a pedicure, and I winced when they did something to me, and she said, you couldn't take the things I go through. She's right. I couldn't. I mean, I couldn't.
Mama.
Yeah.
She's right. But I was strong because of who you made me to be. And I'm sure she's the one that took you to church and talked about the Lord.
Oh, yeah, there was never a question. Yeah. We actually lived next door to the church. So I couldn't even say I got caught in traffic or anything. It was, we were right there.
You were there.
Yeah. My daddy had the keys to the church. Yeah.
Well, you know what? All good things have got to come to an end. And I hate it that this interview's got to come to an end. But tell our viewers, if they want to get in touch with you, how do they do that, Miss Debbie?
I have a Facebook page.
Okay.
My ministry Facebook page is The Reality Group. Now, be sure to put the I in reality, or you'll end up buying a house, because it'll be reality. But it's the Reality Group, and that's my Facebook page for the ministry.
Then
I have another Facebook page. It's Debbie Childers Comedy.
Okay, got it.
And if you want to see the videos, go to my YouTube channel, Debbie Childers Comedy.
Got it. Hope you got it. See you next time on Friends and Neighbors. I loved it. Oh, well, isn't Debbie Childers a crack up? I mean, I so enjoyed that show because it's fun, it's light, and it's easy. And Debbie does bring a lot of joy when she comes. And she's done our show several times, and hopefully when she writes her book, she'll be coming back and share some of her more funny stories. But, you know, it's like she said, she never knew her life would go in that direction. And so many times we don't know, especially as young people, where our life is going to go. But you know who knows. Jesus Christ of Nazareth. He said before you were born, before the foundations of this world, he said you were in his mind. He said even your members are recorded in his book, that he knew your substance even when you were in your mother's womb and you were never formed. He still had you in his mind, and he knows exactly the path you should be on. And if you talk to him, pray to him, ask him for that guidance, ask him to put you on the path that he would have you on, not just what you want yourself on, but what would most glorify the Lord in your life. And I can assure you, if you do that and you're on the path with him, you'll avoid so many heartaches, so many pitfalls, and God will bless and keep you. And so I pray that he will do that today. And I thank you for being here with me on Friends and Neighbors today. And I'm sorry I wrapped it a while ago, but Jeannie was a hoot and I couldn't help it. So thank you for being here with me today.